jury, was the simplicity, but the absolute grippingness, for want of a better word, of the concept, of the psychological thriller. We are watching somebody having, thinking, and it's very moving. I want to stop these blackouts so I can get my wife not to divorce me, and then this slow realization why they're having those blackouts. And we're like one step ahead of you by this point. So at this point, we've edged forward. We know a wee bit more than you do. And then you realise who you are, And
that's one of the biggest challenges, actually.
So why? Where did this come from?
Just talking about the whole being ahead of the audience. No one saw this film until it was finished. So me just praying that people got it was a relief. So that whole thing of psychological thrillers are all about twists and turns, right? It's like, are they going to get it? At what point are they going to get it? So that was always an iffy thing for me. But where did the idea come from? Wow. Well, firstly, I never set out to write a one-person feature film. It wasn't all about, I'm going to do a film entirely on my own. I just wanted to write a script. I had a kind of a concept idea. I've always been kind of interested in narrative and stories that are about internal conflict. Like most stories are about an external obstacle that you have to overcome, but I've always been I always feel like the biggest battles are internal. Mm-hmm. So I kind of had this idea, and I always like paradoxical things because there's really no ending to a paradox, right? And I like this idea of this guy who's got this suppressed trauma that he's unaware of, and whenever he gets close to remembering his trauma, he blacks out, and then he's aware of the blackouts, and then to stop the blackouts, he has to remember the trauma, but he can't remember the trauma because he'll black out. So it's this constant paradox, and that to me was gripping enough to write a story about.
And it had, elements of, for me, it reminded me a little bit of Memento, the Christopher Nolan film, and which is a good thing.
Yeah, thanks.
and also I thought what was great because we felt a connection to you, if you want to call it empathy. We had an empathy to you, and that again was very cleverly done through the cohesion of the writing and the directing and the acting, so it's that kind of the POV shots.
Yeah, it's the subjective storytelling, which I leaned into that quite a bit. Obviously you can tell a lot of it is, I didn't want to play on their whole gimmicky thing. I'm a one-person filmmaker. What can I do as a one-person filmmaker to tick the boxes of, I've done that shot and that shot. It wasn't about that. It was about going through Rob's psyche of, okay, at this point he is, internal. So what is he thinking when he looks at the clock? He's thinking of the clock and the time, so why not put the camera in the clock? So it's more about the subjective storytelling. From an empathy point of view, I suppose you don't really find out what Rob's done until the end, right? So the empathy, you kind of play into that. But that's where the whole, the opening scene is he gets a birthday card from his wife saying she wants a divorce, right? Hopefully that creates some kind of empathy.
Definitely, and it's very moving in the baby thing as well. But also, you as a filmmaker, you do it really well in terms of you have those POV shots. We're seeing it from your point of view. You're also, we never get bored because of there's lots of different shots, but there's lots of different coverage, and also you're reading the messages out loud, but you're also thinking out loud. I'm not going to compare it to Bridget Jones. It's another great.
That's a good example. I love it.
Interior monologue being spoken, but they really connect us to the character. They do so in Trainspotting as well.
We all technically read out loud in our minds, so I was like, why not? He's the narrator. But I like the whole idea of you don't know if he's starting to talk to himself almost like it is the opposite.
And it works within the context of the film. The voiceover is what I'm trying to say. And okay, let's get on to this extraordinary feat. I mean, I watched it again this evening. I just thought, how is that possible? And B, how do you sustain yourself? And C, how are you not dead from falling out of that window?
Yeah, I didn't have insurance. Did you get a call sheet? I put some call sheets out, and on the call sheet it says stuff like that, I didn't have insurance and stuff like that. And
you wouldn't have got it.
I know. Well, who would insure me anyway? It was crazy. It was a huge challenge to undertake. It was a personal challenge to start with, but I never even thought I'd finish it, right? That's why it's taken me so long, and I don't think I ever thought that in any way I'd be here and get into festivals and win and stuff like that. But the challenge was, people always say, what was the biggest challenge you faced? And I think Solo filmmaking is completely different to normal filmmaking because there's numerous elements. Obviously, you're juggling and you're wearing multiple hats and there's no downtime. But the main thing is, and the biggest challenge was just staying motivated. I think to stay motivated through this, because it was such a long time, it's to see the light at the end of the never-ending tunnel, which it literally was a never-ending tunnel, was the challenge in itself. But there were challenges at each stage of production, like writing a one-person script not really has never been done before, so that in itself was a challenge. The filming was 20 days, but it was relentless. It was just continuous. It was no downtime, and that absolutely killed me. 20-hour days. The post was like going back to school. I genuinely felt like I had to relearn so many things, and in no way am I just want to say, in no way am I an expert at any of these departments in any way. Right? All I knew is what I had to do for my film, to execute my film the way I wanted to do it. If somebody, please don't ask me a technical question on sound. If anyone asks me like really technical questions on stuff, I may be able to think about how I did it, but I'm not an expert. I knew what I needed to do for my film to execute the way I wanted to do it, the story I wanted to tell. Post was going back to school for me in many departments: masking, rotoscoping, all that kind of stuff, sound, mixing.
Incredible, to have had that strength of determination, that steely discipline. I really take my hat off to you. And then, you got the result. You've inspired all these people here, all these filmmakers in the room.
I don't know if I've inspired.
I'm sure you have.
Here, so thank you.
Inspired and conspired. But just on the actual shoot, what was the main challenge? What was the most rewarding? And I do want to know about the POV shots out the window, when you're crawling down the ledge.
There were numerous things that were challenging just because you're tired and you're relentless. Like I made not as many mistakes as I actually thought when I got into the edit, but I did make so many mistakes. Like there were whole scenes where I forgot to put the necklace on, and in my head I'd be like, just fix it in post, right? But then I realised I was doing post, and I was like, no, I've got to do this again. Right, let's try and film all again. And there were things like that. The telephone scene actually was the hardest. That was my breaking point. I was like 16 hours into the day, and that telephone box wasn't heavy, and I had to like up and down. It was really challenging. And that I was filmed in November. That was cold, and I was in a vest as well. So that was a struggle just to film that scene. And also this building, I don't know if anyone knows Oslo House in Hackney, but it's like a party's going on there every night. So sound was just, it was so difficult to capture sound. So all of that, I think I reached kind of breaking point. But the only good thing about when you're filming on your own is that you can stop, you can take a breather, and then you can go again, right? So that was what I did in that moment, but you can't stop for too long because everything stops.
So what made you go again? What was the...
I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I feel like if I don't finish something, I feel like I've failed. So that was it. I was already in it. I was in the long game already. I'd already done so many days of filming. Up until the point, I'd wrote the script, but I still didn't think I was going to do it. My first day of filming, because I'd actually paid for something, right? So this film cost me all in all and I'm quite open with this, and you can ask me, about £6,000, because obviously I had to hire a camera, hire a location. When you think of that, that is literally a zero budget film. And obviously you can't do, there's no such thing as no budget film, right? So that is what it cost me. And like the thing with the I don't know where my train of thought went there. What was it talking about?
Can't remember. So what was the biggest reward?
Finishing it. Definitely finishing it. The biggest reward was the first time I showed it to my brother and my wife, and just knowing that they got it. And I was so proud that I just finished something that somebody can watch. It was a story that I told, and they enjoyed watching it. I think to enjoy moments along the way, I enjoyed the process of editing, and I'd see a scene of, it comes together, it's come together, like how I envisioned it. And it was the same at the end of a day. If I'd finished a day on schedule, which was really rare, I'd be quite proud of that day. But there was a massive reality check. I've done like production management and figuring out days, schedules before, but like first day on set, I thought I was going to do 7 pages, ended up doing 2. So it was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to pay for this location longer and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, just try and do it. And I storyboarded the whole thing
in 3D?
In 3D, like a 3D software, which I'm not going to name that because it's not the best. It was just easier for me because I was able to lay out the kind of construct of the environment to the lens, so I could figure out what lens I needed and stuff like that. But it was mainly because I knew that I was going to be so fatigued. I just needed to tick boxes. I knew that I wasn't thinking creatively. The last thing on my mind was acting, actually, which is really weird. I was thinking about everything else. I just wasn't thinking about acting. Mainly because I knew the characters so well, so I didn't need to. And the frustration was just me filming. It wasn't actually the acting. It was just me. So there was a lot of that.
And next, what's going to happen
for the
next?
film?
For the film and for you and everything.
For the film, it's got its US premiere at CineQuest in March, which is pretty good because CineQuest is quite a big festival. No, I don't really know. Like, this is, if anyone's got any kind of answers to this, but it's a very different film, right? Like, we've had this conversation. You talk about how this film could potentially have a theatrical release, and I'm like, yeah. I don't see. What I see is that this film is a film for me in two parts. It's a film for filmmakers and creatives who enjoy the process of filmmaking and want to be inspired by it. Mm-hmm. And also for maybe psychological thriller fans, right? So it's a completely different way of looking at it. So I am talking to distributors and sales and seeing where this could live, but to me, I just want people to see it, so I don't really care where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, and I think people will want to see it. I really do. I mean, listen to the response in the room tonight. It's fantastic. And regarding films, you've got more films you want to make?
Yeah, there's a film in the pipeline we're doing, not on my own this time, definitely not. But again, it's pushing the boundaries of filmmaking in a completely different way.
And you really have. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a film where every single aspect of it has been done by one person. I mean, that has to be like in the Guinness Book of Records or something, It's really, really inspiring, and it's a great film as well. So thank you and well done.
Much.
And I'm going to hand over now to the audience. Who would like to ask a question?
Oh, God. Oh, no.
Hands up.
Yes, lady in the red jumper.
First of all, congratulations on your film. Absolutely
Thank
amazing.
you.
So I wanted to ask, how did you sort of balance the weight of the topic of mental health with your creative choices and filmmaking? Obviously psychological thrillers, they are based on real life mental health issues and stuff, but with the psychological thriller, it's kind of mixing up the creative kind of creative ideas. So I just wanted to know how did you find doing that?
A challenge. One of the reasons why I use the word split personality, I didn't want to go down the whole, because it's actually called dissociative identity disorder, DID, but I didn't want to label anything in any way because I didn't want to feel like, also the therapist is another way that we lean into the military side of things and not that. It's a challenge in that aspect, and I think the military side of things with the PTSD, a lot of that can be misled as misdirection with, a psychological thriller, right? So you've got to, have that quite carefully. I don't know if that answered the question. I don't know a bit.
So there's a real thing called dissociation identity disorder. So it comes from a real psychological disorder.
DID, yeah.
And you researched
called
that.
multiple personality disorder, and it actually was originally called split personality disorder, and it is a medical condition. It is something that people obviously do suffer with, and a lot of this is based on the quote about him. It's like the feeling that you get when you're driving in the car and you can't remember what you've just done. That's actually a quote from somebody who has DID. So there is that in it. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So that's what makes it really interesting on a deep psychological level, that actually that could happen. That somebody could actually kill their own wife and not remember.
Yeah, and also another thing to say, another thing to say is that one of the reasons I came up with the whole kind of split personality, or him emerging and stopping himself from remembering, was that in the military I came across this interview years back of this guy talking about how he compartmentalizes his thoughts and feelings, right? And I was just like, isn't that interesting that as a military person they actually suppress their feelings to be able to carry on? So that in itself was, what if they had to suppress it so much that they had a defense mechanism where their personality split? So that was kind of like how the military kind of thing came into the whole aspect.
I noticed that actually, watching it again, I sort of thought, actually, that is interesting that he's saying how he's been taught through the military to compartmentalize, you know, and so it's actually like a progression of that. Okay, another question. Somebody? Yes, gentleman in the jumper.
Obviously, making a solo movie, you have your vision for what the end product's gonna be, and when you kind of showed it to your brother and to your wife, were you able to kind of let go of maybe how you envisioned it and take on board sort of feedback, or was it like start to finish your vision, and that's how it came out? And then the second part is, I really hope that your wife and brother aren't called Jack and Janine.
No, they're not called Jack and Janine. I don't know if anyone noticed, but the door is actually called 3J, so it's 3 people J, right? But the I suppose I had the vision, because I didn't want to show it to anybody until I'd finished it, right? So I have to have a very clear vision on what that is without any feedback. Luckily, the feedback was quite minimal after they watched it. I kind of went through it and was like, was there anything you didn't get? But I didn't want to purposely take on too much feedback and change too much, because then it becomes something that's other people, and that's not what I wanted to do, right? I wanted to see if I could create this vision entirely by myself and see how far that went. But I wasn't like expecting it to go anywhere, right? So it was just one of these things that I thought I'll hold on to and see what happens. But luckily I didn't actually get a huge amount of feedback. I would love to have done a screening like this and got feedback, right? Like, it'd probably been a completely different film. But in the end, I think as creatives, you've got to hold on to that creative vision that you have, not change too much the vision that other people have, because once you start listening, and you should listen, but take it on board and see what best advice works for your vision in the first place, because you can get sidetracked like that.
I think as well, if you've storyboarded it to that extent, you know, you're really quite clear, and because it is very kind of, you know, singular purpose in it, you know, I'm sure like different films would be different because they've got multiple narratives going on, whereas that's very singular.
Did you get it? As in, do you get the film?
Yeah, I think so.
That's enough.
Okay, so can we have a question? Yes, lady in the red. No, you were first. Your hand just went up a split second.
What's that?
No, the lady there. Yeah.
He put his hand up before as well.
Oh, sorry. Well, okay, sorry, I didn't see that. You're the last question then.
Have you had, congratulations first, it was a very good thing.
Thank you.
Have you had formal acting training? Because your acting, direction and your storytelling was superb. So I'm just wondering what kind of formal training or experience have you had?
So my background is I went to drama school, came out in 2010, and then like most people, you know, did a couple of failed projects, you know, did some indie films that never saw the light of day, was Cairo things and stuff like that. So that's acting is my background, and that was when I kind of transitioned over to the other side of the camera and actually went into more of the advertising space and started to do a little bit of directing for corporate stuff. But I really started to enjoy that process as well, and that's where I really liked the whole filmmaking side of things. And I've always been quite hands-on. Some people maybe say too hands-on, maybe I should be a bit hands-off. But yeah, that's when I started to like color grading and sound and all these other elements and editing. I got a lot more interested in that. And I think the film gradually evolved. Like after I wrote the film, I still wasn't thinking I was going to do it on my own. It was still a gradual process of, oh no, maybe I can do that role, maybe I can do that role. I'd still not got anyone involved at this point, and I was just like, okay, let's just try and do it on my own.
You know, I think I remember you saying to me as well that you had been involved in a film out in LA. One of the reasons that you decided to do this was when he was acting in a film in LA, and then it just kind of, like, people got, you know, they kind of just lost interest in it. They stopped caring about it, even though it was a really good film. And then it was the lack of care of something that you thought was really good that made you kind of think...
It's just the fact they didn't finish it, right? Yeah. Like, finish the film and see where it goes. So, you know, in the industry, we want control over things. And I wanted to show that, to the industry, I wanted to show that without any help of any sort, without any limited research or resources, no budget, you're still able to tell a story however you want to tell it. And I think if you can take away anything, that's what this film should, or what I hope stands for. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does, and it's really good as well. Okay, your question?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for the presentation. I've been aware of it on social media, and then the tagline of a film made by one person was what drew me into it.
That's good.
So removing that tagline would have changed the way I was viewing the story, because I was like, okay, there is no one else coming.
I see where you're going.
Snip were going to be deprived of this particular thing, or that because it can't happen because it's just one person.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to see the dynamic, knowing it and not knowing it. It informs the way you watch the story, I found.
This is my dilemma.
Yeah.
It's like the made by one person is the hook. It's probably one of the reasons why most of you are here. But also, when you have that in mind, you're looking at the film in a different way, right? You're thinking about it like one person, so you automatically think, oh, that person can't be there, or, that person, he held the camera himself, little things like that, what you're interested in. If you take that away, you obviously just watch it as a film. But do you watch it? Do people actually see it? That's the challenge, right? So it's a challenge it's a marketing challenge that I have. Yeah.
And the painted toenails of your wife, that's yours.
They're not. I'm going to bring them tonight.
They're believing it.
That's a secret.
Okay. One more question. I think this lady just right at the back. Yes, you're just going like that now, would you? Yeah.
Congratulations
Thank
for
you.
first thing. As a film student, just the thought of doing all this makes me want to back out.
That wasn't the purpose.
If you could go back to before you started writing it and all that, if you could give yourself yourself back then one piece of advice for the whole process, what would you say would help you the most?
Do it quicker. I think that's the problem with most films. They take too long. You got to just do it and move on. And it's taken me a long time, and I wish I'd finished it sooner so I can go on to the next thing. Whether it would have been as good or not, that's a question I don't know. But yeah, I wish I'd done it quicker.
And do you have any advice for any of the people here who want to make their first feature?
I am not saying filmmaking isn't collaborative. Filmmaking is collaborative. But all I remember, my first day of drama school, I remember the drama teacher saying to me, only 1% of actors are working at any given time. And that always stuck with me. I was always like, oh my God, I'm going to have to maybe do something outside of my own. So I think that's the only advice I can give you. If you're at a stalemate and you're waiting for an opportunity, try and find a way to create an opportunity. And because you never know where it's going to go. It is challenging. There's a lot of competition, but you've got to be in the competition.
You've got to be in it to win it. And he's won it. Okay, thank you very, very much, Matthew.
Thank you.